You are listening to This Week in Taiwan. I'm Eloise Phillips. Every Saturday, we break down the biggest stories making headlines across the country, from politics and economics to culture and the unexpected. Whether you're tuning in from Taipei or halfway around the world, we've got you covered with what you need to know to stay in the loop. President Lai Ching-te listed the 3 reasons Taiwan's direct presidential election is important at an event commemorating their 30th anniversary on Saturday, March 14th. Not only does it keep sovereignty with the people, but it remains a major milestone in Taiwan's democracy and history as a sovereign country. Lai noted that the first direct presidential election in 1996 didn't just fall from the sky, but was the result of countless courageous pioneers in Taiwan's democratic movement. From the first election to 30 years later today, Lai said Taiwan had been a model democracy in Asia because of the power of its people. It is Taiwan's use of direct presidential elections that ultimately gives people sovereignty, he argued. The March 23, 1996 election was a milestone for establishing a democratic Taiwan, with the election granting the government separate legitimacy from the dark days of authoritarianism. Finally, it established Taiwan as its own sovereign and independent country, regardless of whether it's called the Republic of China, the Republic of China Taiwan, or simply Taiwan, he said. Lai pointed out that both China and Taiwan are vibrant nations, but that as president, he would not return to authoritarianism or dictatorship regardless of pressure. Between Chinese military threats and the US National Security Strategy report's emphasis on collective defense and shared responsibility, Taiwan must strengthen its defense capabilities. Turning to defense budgets, the president compared his proposed 8-year special defense budget of 1.25 trillion Taiwanese dollars, nearly $40 billion US dollars, with the yearly defense budgets of Japan and South Korea, both of which are 1.4 trillion Taiwanese dollars, about $43.7 billion US dollars, or higher. Taiwan's budget, which he noted translates to 156 billion Taiwanese dollars per year, approximately 4.87 billion US dollars, is enough to support economic growth and strengthen Taiwan's defensive shield. In response to lawmakers' concerns about the CCP's increasingly sophisticated cognitive warfare tactics against Taiwan, Mainland Affairs Council, or MAC, Minister Chiu Chui-zheng said Tuesday that the government is addressing AI-generated disinformation campaigns on 4 fronts. DPP legislator Minister Lin noted that China's method of infiltrating Taiwanese society are growing increasingly sophisticated alongside the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, which they use to interfere with elections and to erode trust in the government and public institutions in democratic countries. Lin said that according to statistics, about 17,000 abnormal accounts and 155,000 pieces of suspicious content are created annually, indicating that the scale of these operations is expanding continuously. Chiu confirmed that China's AI-generated videos, bot accounts, and CCP-linked apps indeed threaten the function of Taiwan's free and democratic way of life, and that these tactics can significantly influence public opinion. To combat this issue, he said the government is focused on 4 key areas: cross-ministerial coordination, cooperation with multinational online platforms, legal means for regulating false information, and strengthening media literacy. Chiu said,
We have put forth a number of legal tools targeting fake news that harms national security and social stability. New pieces of legislation have already been submitted for review. We hope both the ruling and opposition parties can support them. In addition, we need to improve media literacy throughout society to prevent people from being influenced by disinformation.
The minister emphasized that Taiwan must build mechanisms to defend its democracy and strengthen overall societal resilience in order to counter the impact of cognitive warfare. Medigen Vaccine Biologics Corporation, or MVC, announced this Wednesday that its independently developed Envaction enterovirus 71 vaccine has received a new drug marketing authorization from Vietnam's regulatory authority. This marks not only the first time an enterovirus vaccine has received such approval in Vietnam, but also the first instance of a Taiwanese-developed vaccine successfully entering an overseas market. MVC stated that since Envaction's launch in Taiwan in August 2023, it has maintained a market share of more than 95% in Taiwan's out-of-pocket enterovirus vaccine market. Cumulative domestic sales have surpassed 500,000 doses. The company noted that Vietnam has strong economic growth momentum and a significant demographic dividend, with approximately 1.36 million newborns annually in recent years. Given its hot, humid climate and dense population, Vietnam also suffers from frequent enterovirus outbreaks. In 2023, a large-scale outbreak caused 180,000 pediatric cases and 31 child deaths. MVC added that Vietnam's pediatric vaccine market has become an intense battleground among vaccine manufacturers globally. Securing Vietnam's first enterovirus vaccine approval, along with a partnership with French pharmaceutical company Substipharm Biologics, is expected to enable rapid entry into Vietnamese and ASEAN out-of-pocket markets, giving MVC a foothold for expanding in the Southeast Asian market. The United States Office of the Director of National Intelligence's latest report indicates that China has no plans to invade Taiwan in 2027. The, quote, 2026 Annual Threat Assessment of the U.S. Intelligence Community, end quote, released Wednesday, assesses the PLA's developing plans and capabilities in more than 30 pages. Although China has threatened to militarily annex Taiwan, the report states it, quote, prefers to achieve unification without the use of force, if possible, end quote. It indicates that Beijing is likely to continue creating conditions for eventual unification while avoiding conflict. The PLA continues to develop military plans and capabilities to achieve unification by force regardless, the report details, making steady but uneven progress in its ability to seize Taiwan and potentially deter or thwart US intervention. The office assesses that Chinese leaders currently do not have plans to invade Taiwan in 2027, nor have they set a specific timetable for unification, although they have publicly announced that unification with Taiwan is crucial to their goal of, quote, national rejuvenation, end quote, by the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic of China in 2049. Beijing will consider multiple factors when determining whether to seek unification militarily and how to do so, including the PLA's combat readiness, Taiwan's actions and political situation, and whether the US will militarily intervene, the report states. It says that Chinese officials understand launching an amphibious invasion has a high risk of failure, especially if the US intervenes. Assessing how it would impact the US, the report states that intervening would likely cause China to carry out cyber attacks on the US transportation industry within a recoverable range. Not intervening would cause US and global economic and security interests to face significant and costly consequences, including disruptions to technology supply chains. The escalating Middle East conflict, beyond impacting energy shipments, is also hitting global fertilizer raw material supplies. Agriculture Minister Chen Junji told lawmakers Wednesday that Taiwan's fertilizer sources remain diversified, ensuring supply for the next 6 to 8 months with no issues. If the conflict drags on and prices rise, the ministry will coordinate with Taiwan Fertilizer Co. to stabilize costs and absorb any differences as needed. During a Legislative Economics Committee briefing and questioning, Chen addressed disruptions from US-Israel strikes on Iran, now over 2 weeks long, affecting the Strait of Hormuz shipments of energy and chemicals. In interviews and replies, Chen stressed that Taiwan isn't reliant on the Middle East alone. Current inventories and en route shipments cover needs through August at least, or even December. He said,
the urea part, including nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, based on the current inventory and shipments already at sea to Taiwan, can probably be supplied until August, the potassium fertilizer until October, and the phosphate rock until December.
If prolonged, shipping and costs will rise. Beyond new suppliers, the ministry and Taiwan Fertilizer Co. will negotiate price stability, as during COVID-19, when no price hike mechanisms absorb differences. Chen noted that past pandemic shipping disruptions were worse. Taiwan has experienced and will monitor fertilizer sources plus yellow staples, soybeans, wheat, corn, prices, implementing measures if needed. Foreign Minister Lin urged the South Korean government on Thursday to correct its electronic card arrival system, which improperly labels Taiwan as, quote, China, open bracket, Taiwan, end bracket, end quote, emphasizing the need for mutual respect and equal dignity to maintain positive bilateral ties. In response to the labeling, Taiwan changed Korea to South Korea on its Alien Residence Certificate, or ARC, starting March 1st. The government has given Seoul until March 31st to correct the system, warning of reciprocal naming measures on Taiwan's electronic arrival cards if no positive response is received. Speaking at the legislature, Lin noted that South Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has acknowledged this issue and initiated negotiations. He said, We are giving the other side time, as Taiwan-South Korea relations are actually good in terms of industry, tourism and cultural exchange. We hope the South Korean government can face Taiwan's public opinion and our government's negotiations, uphold parity and dignity, and promote the development of friendly relations. Lin acknowledged that South Korea showed some goodwill by delaying its planned February 1st phase-out of paper arrival cards. He expressed optimism that Taiwan's countermeasures will be effective, noting that private citizens in both countries support recognizing Taiwan by its proper name. And that is it for This Week in Taiwan. My name is Eloise Phillips. If you want to know more about what's going on in Taiwan, visit our website at rti.org.tw/en. Until next time.